Thank you so much for you and the NCBA team for inviting me for this session. I want to talk about where I'm sitting right now just to get this started after that introduction. So you've heard my name, I'm Patricia, and right now I'm in Embu. I came to check on my mother in March, and I found myself literally living my worst case scenario. This is my COVID experience as I talk to you. I am in Embu, in the room that I was in. I think the last time I've been in this room was probably 16 for more than 2 months. So I feel what some of you who are parents, you have your children at home and adolescents back at home. I feel like an adolescent generally. But what is important about the slide that's up there is whatever happens, life happens, and you will live longer than you plan to. Things that are certain in life is you will end employment and you will die at some point. So really the question I ask myself is, when do I think I'm going to die? When is N? That's my mother who's retired. That's her at 15 years of retirement. I want you to be assured you will stay for longer in retirement. And that's kind of a journey that I want us to work through today about your money. The objective today is really around wealth creation. And when I talk about wealth, I'll talk about the 5 different aspects of it. The first one is your income. Certainly within that, without a doubt, income has been affected by Corona. Second thing I'll talk about is your expenses. And Raphael has alluded to this around how are you changing the way you're managing your money? And finally, your net worth. Are you even familiar about whether you have a net worth or not? One of the comments on Facebook was quite interesting last night where someone said, why are we discussing money at a time when people don't have it? And that's one of the things that Corona has done is it's focusing us a lot on the negative side about our money. And we're not taking time to reflect and pause about even the assets that you've acquired over time. We're focusing so much on debt that we are wondering if we've actually done anything right with your money over time. So I want you to look through this and think about your own assets. What have you acquired? What are your liabilities? So for example, when I look at this, I think of anything that gives me an expense as a liability. Now, I've just told you I'm currently in my family home. So question, should I value the house in Nairobi as an asset at this time or not? It's been sitting idle for the last 3 months. Or the car that I have outside, it's parked. Is that really an asset or a liability at this point? Can it give me an income? For the people who are holding assets, and that's a conversation again we'll be having, is rental incomes. People are talking about 30% of people not being able to pay rent. Now, for a pensioner who had invested in rental income, how is this affected? What is the kind of restructuring that they need to do to their balance sheet? So keep this chat in mind as we have the conversation going forward. So very quickly talking about the asset. First one, income. I've only had 2 or 3 from my clients of people who have had an increase in income during this period. And even in that case, it was an increase because of a change in job. Now, the gentleman I spoke to is very clear that despite the change in job, he doesn't want to change his lifestyle, but he wants to put the money aside for saving. Now, most of us, including I, am affected by income. As I set up my business 2.5 years ago, at that point, I never imagined COVID is going to happen. It's the last thing any business owner or entrepreneur was expecting. If you know anything about entrepreneurship, they say it takes you about 3 to 5 years to turn around. They actually call it the valley of death. So I'm right in the center of that valley of death. Now, income is low, job losses are happening, cost cuttings are happening, rents are getting delayed. The worst thing you can do right now is start a new hustle or a new job. If you already had not planned or done research into a new business line, so for example, if you're me and I decide to set up a business now in Embu, it's very likely not to succeed because I haven't done the research I need to in this market. Next problem, most people want to inject money. This is actually a man problem. You feel if you put more money into your business, if you're more aggressive, that you will earn more. That may not happen. And finally, for those of us in the gig economy, people in Uber, events, photography, you were used to making money based on gigs, based on events. That has definitely contracted. And you have to start making a plan for yourself. The second topic I'll talk about is expenses. You must. So if I use my life again as an example, I've had to reallocate some expenses. Now I don't spend as much on fuel and the car, but look at what has happened. I'm working from home, so I need Wi-Fi, better infrastructure. So your first step is really understanding what your expenses are and starting to reallocate them. I want to speak specifically to families right now. One of my clients, a lady, has teenage sons at home. And as you can imagine, teenagers do eat quite a bit. So your question when I say reallocate expenses means you have to be a bit creative about you do this. So yes, they like eating the sausages and the nice things. However, this is the time when you have to consciously make a decision between balancing. Do I buy the high-end expensive things? Do I keep buying meat in the house, or how do I reallocate? Bulk shopping is something that I've had a lot of people talking to me about. And it's very tempting to do this. I actually did it 3 months before I came here. And guess what? I'm now having to deal with things around inventory and stock. I have to start worrying about emptying my fridge. That was month number 1. Now I'm starting to worry about the pantry. For a lot of people that I've spoken to who have families, you bought in bulk, but you're not managing that stock well. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of wastage in the homes. So just check how you're managing it. And the whole idea of I live today and therefore I don't need to save, COVID might be with us for another 18 months. So you need to make decisions that are long-term in nature. Number 3, your emergency fund. Once you have your income less expenses, hopefully you have some savings. Now, young people especially that I speak to are quite interesting when you talk about an emergency fund. We do recommend that you have 6 to 8 months of your expenses within an emergency fund. You can invest it in something that's liquid, money market, deposits, anything like that, that you can access, the circle. Now, we hear things like, I'm too young, I need to make more money, I won't be able to save. But I want to challenge you using money, and is currently upcountry, and she's able to meet her expenses despite being at work. When I'm talking about an emergency fund, you need to be able to answer these questions. Is it unexpected? Is it urgent? And is it necessary before you actually spend? Now, if the roof of your house blows off, all of those will be ticked off. It is unexpected, it is urgent, it is necessary. However, if your car breaks down, if Patricia's car breaks down now, it's very unlikely I can tick off those boxes. So be very careful when you start making the decision of whether to spend or to wait it out. One of my friends actually withdrew money from his circle because he said he was not able to pay rent at the time. What has happened 2 months later? He has got a gig, he has already consumed his money, and it's very unlikely he'll be putting that money back in the circle. So you need to find the right balance on when to access that money. Finally, the last 2, your assets. Please take time to look at what assets you're holding. Ladies, charmers especially, diversifying does not mean buying land in 47 counties. That is still land, it is not liquid. So take a look at your portfolio and speak to an investment advisor and buy different assets. Putting all your retirement money into your home upcountry is not diversification. Please always balance risk and return. The higher the risk you take, the higher the return. So anytime you call me and you say you have a very good deal, it is high return, please remember you're also buying that risk. In this time, the biggest decision I'm finding myself making is a lot of things feel very cheap. People are selling land cheap. Auctioneers are selling things cheap. You have to have a long-term plan. Was it part of your decision long-term to acquire these things? But more importantly, do not sell in a rush. People are having liquidity strain and are selling in a rush. And finally, liabilities. Like I said, anything that doesn't give me an income, I consider a liability. So my car clearly right now, as I'm thinking about renewal of insurance, I'm really wondering what it's for right now. But I want to talk specifically around debt. Debt, just because you don't talk about it, just because you don't tell your wife about it, just because you ignore it, doesn't mean you've paid it off. Just because NCBA or any other bank is willing to renegotiate with you and extend, interest will still accrue. Second thing, If you're using debt for consumption, then you have a problem. It was very worrying when I heard that credit cards are being used now to do a lot of the shopping at the pharmacy and the groceries. Because what does that mean? You're just postponing the inevitable in that cost-making decision. So you need to be very aware of your debt and you need to aggressively manage it. If you have debt as a business, please take time now to speak to your bankers. It is not enough for you to keep quiet and keep complaining about it. So debt, those are really the 5 concepts in terms of your personal finance that I want to talk about today, and I'll get questions later. So going back to my life, as I said, I'm in Embu right now. An emergency has happened. This is what, if you look at the bottom there, this is the cycle of what you go through anytime from a psychology point of view, anytime you have an emergency. So what happened before March? We got to hear the warning about COVID. We started looking for information. We started seeing all the information around buying of tissue and all the panic that was going on. What happened? Coming closer, there was an impact. Suddenly, there was a conversation around curfew, staying at home. I'm living in Kileleshwa wondering, my goodness, it's quiet at 7. What's going on? Now, then what did I do? I took action. I shopped. I came to check on my mother. I came to stock up. I believe right now I'm really on the honeymoon stage. I'm really at that point where this is beginning to feel normal. In fact, you keep hearing people talking about this as the new normal. We'll do online meetings. But the reality is my finances have been impacted. My business is slower. I'm having to renegotiate. And the same process, when I look even as in friends, even here up country, one of my colleagues was bringing items from China. He has had to rechange his idea and move up his plan to set up a butchery. And that butchery is doing well because he's targeting the same people. So this new normal will have to now evolve into taking stock and inventory. At that point, I really need to start making decisions beyond the band-aid conversations that I've had with my business so far. And finally, at the very end, there'll have to be a recovery. And as you can see there, recovery will happen across all areas. One of the things we emphasize is please have a balanced life. When Mr. Gashora was talking, he talked about both health and economic issues. You need to be very aware that the more unhappy you are, the more anxious you are, the more out of sync you are with your normal life, the more likely you are to make decisions on your finances that are short term. It's very important to think about COVID is going to be just one part in what is a long life for me ahead. So what is my reality really at this point? First thing is you will live longer in retirement. The second one, which is interesting when you're me, is adult children at home will become a key risk. Anyone who's living with adult children over their 20s in their house now, your costs have gone up extraordinarily. And the reason for that is not just the food, but just all the infrastructure around an adult. All the demands, even just on your personal emotions, are a lot higher. Retired husband, for the men who are here, men hate sitting in the house. The women start wondering what to do with you. They almost want you to move out of the house because they want to clean it. So you need to start thinking, how will I manage my time at home when I'm there? Your bucket list, I have a lot of dreams that I want to accomplish. It doesn't matter how much savings I make, it's very unlikely I will fund my bucket list totally. You will have an identity issue. A lot of us are used to going to the office, getting called boss, getting, people at room and calling yourself managing director. Life is very interesting. And finally, fraudsters, they will find you. If I look at the last 3 months, I've already tried to be conned by a tender, an offering a tender that was actually fraudulent. My mother's phone seems to have frauds. I don't know how they know you're at home, but the more anxious you are, the more likely you're the fraudster at that point. Having said that, I believe I'm really at the end, and thank you so much again to them and all of you for joining me. Thank you very much.